Sometimes you just have to step aside as a leader, because the thing that you're facing is so overwhelming that it's best for you to step aside, collect yourself, and then come back stronger and courageous than ever. Leading through pain. And I know this could be a difficult time for some of us. Some of us have lost some loved ones. Some of us have lost, money, finances. Some of us have lost jobs. Some of us have lost relationships. So I understand that those things are happening. Those are the type of pain that I'm talking about. We have two type of pains, right? We got some personal pain and we got professional pain. The thing is, how do you bounce back from that? How do you lead through that? Well, let me explain. In my personal journey, everyone that knows me knows that I'm a mama's boy. Everyone knows that how much I love my mother. There is no woman on earth that I love more than my mom. I mean, she has always been the person that I count as my foundation. It's always been the person that I can lean on, talk to. And I mean, the relationship we have, I think is just something that fairy tales are made out of. I mean, God gave me the perfect mom. Not too soft. I mean, she gave, not too hard. I mean, she was a tough woman, and I've learned a lot from her. So when she went into the hospital last year, and the doctors were kind of shaking their heads, and I was kind of curious about that, because I was wondering why the long faces when they were talking about my mom. So as they were talking about my mom, I kind of got closer just to eavesdrop in what they were saying. And all I heard was, I don't know if she's gonna make it. I don't know if it's worth it. I don't know this. We think it might be. I kept hearing these words that was not encouraging to me. And afterwards, I asked the doctor, our doctor, I said, so what's the word, doc? And he told me, he said, it doesn't look good for your mom. It doesn't look good for your mom. I mean, just those words alone just broke my heart, because it was like that was the worst thing that you could have said to me that day. And so I kind of had them break down what was going on, the issues that my mother was having. And I took it all in, and I was like, okay, let's move forward with this procedure. Let's go ahead with that procedure. Let's eliminate that procedure, because that's too evasive, and I think that she's too weak for her to go through that. So let's do this. And so we did some procedures, and our doctors did their procedures. They went on and operated and all this stuff. And then next thing you know, a few months later, my mother was okay. Okay to the point where I can communicate with her. We can communicate with her. My brothers and sisters and I. We were just so pleased that she just made the recovery that she did. So we're in Florida at this time, and I work in DC, So I always count Florida as my home because that's where I'm from. And so I fly back to DC, and then the whole COVID thing happened, right? Because the whole time, I'm like, forget work, forget everything. I'm going home. I love to be around my mama. I'm gonna make sure she's safe, and I'm not gonna leave it to chance, and I'm not gonna leave her in those doctors' hands that want to just put the knife on people and experiment with people. So I stayed there for a few months, watching over my mom and just making sure that everything went okay with the doctors. So I fly back to DC. COVID-19 happens, and here I am going through, the whole quarantine thing, and next thing you know, I get a phone call. And it's from my sister. And she's telling me that my mom had an accident at the hospital. And now she's unconscious. So I'm like, what happened? I mean, we just went through this. Apparently what happened was that my mom wanted to get up, and one of the nurses was trying to help her get up, and my mom fell. And she fell so hard that she broke her femur bone, the bone that's in the thigh, which is one of the hardest bones in the human body. And so they had to go through emergency surgery to fix it, to fix the bone. And because she went through surgery months before, it put her in a semi state of a coma. It just threw everything off. Now, mind you, I have a team to lead. Because everyone knows my profession. I'm a cybersecurity analyst, for the government, for government agencies. And right now, one of my clients is, the CDC. And what I do is I set up teams and we build an infrastructure around the government issue, whatever that problem is, and deliver a cybersecurity solution for our client. And so I gotta be in front of this team. And the thing is, I'm hurting while I'm in front of this team. I'm waking up. I mean, we're still under quarantine. I'm waking up, going in front of the computer, acknowledging my team and making sure everything is okay, and making sure that we have our milestones, we're delivering on time, everyone is okay. And there's other stressors with COVID-19 that was happening at the time that I had to acknowledge, because some of my teammates, they weren't used to being quarantined. They weren't, used to not seeing each other. They were going through it. They were stressed out. Sometimes, they were missing days. They were late coming to the calls, to the WebEx calls. I mean, just all type of stuff. And so I had to deal with that while going through my own personal issues. And I had to find a way to have the courage to show up not as a strong leader, but as a courageous leader. Courageous enough to be vulnerable in front of my team knowing that that would not discredit me. Because I know some people are thinking, you know what, if I show vulnerability, that's going to discredit me with my team. That's going to discredit me in front of my family. That's going to discredit me in front of my business partners. That's going to discredit me in front of my friends. But I'm going to tell you something. When you know that you've built the culture, a correct culture that supports that vulnerability that you're experiencing, you don't have to worry about that stuff. You have to worry when you haven't done your due diligence to build a culture that can sustain a crisis, a personal crisis in your life or in their lives. You have to build that culture. You're responsible for building that culture. You're the leader. The buck can't be passed. It's you. It's on you. You're responsible for that. If you have a culture of cynicism, gossip, and backbiting, you built that culture. That's your responsibility. Some of us like to blame and we like to point. As a leader, you can't point. You can't blame. If you want to point, you got to point this way. Because it's you. Everybody's functioning off of your vibes. So I wanted to I jotted down a couple of points that I wanted to just go over with you on how do you lead through pain? How do you actually do it? What are some of the action steps that you can take today? Because if you're going through something, what are some of the steps that you can take to go through it? Because you either you go through it or you let it run you over. Those are the two options. And option number 2 wasn't an option for me because I must go forward. I'm just built that way. But there's a way to go forward. There's a healthy way to go forward. Especially when we're talking about mental health. All that superhero macho man stuff, it does not work. Or macho woman stuff, it does not work in the real world. You will find yourself by yourself and hurt. So let me give you some steps. Step number 1. As a leader, when you're going through pain, you have to realize that you have to face your pain. Whatever that pain is, you gotta face it. You gotta face it, you gotta walk it out, and you gotta walk through that pain. No matter what's going on, you gotta say to yourself that I am going to walk through this pain. I am going to go through this pain knowing that there's something good that's gonna come out of it on the other side of that pain. Because let's admit it. Leadership is pain. You're always going to go through pain. Either it's personal pain or it's professional pain. You're going to have pain on your team. You're going to have pain in your family. You're going to have pain in your organization. You're going to have pain with your friends. A leader, this is what we signed up for. Like Steve Jobs said that if you're not willing to experience pain as a leader, you might as well go and sell some ice cream. That's how serious it is. I mean, we see all the glamour, right? We see all the glamour. we're up front. We get to talk to the generals. We get to do the briefings. We have the nice big office. We have the laptops and all this stuff. You see all the glamour, the parking space, the cars, all this glamour. We get that. But that's not what leadership is. I'm going to tell you what leadership is. And I want you to write this down. Leadership is servanthood. I'm going to say that again. Leadership is servanthood. What do I mean by servanthood? You are not there to be served. You are there to serve. I don't care if it's your team. I don't care if it's your customers. I don't care if it's your clients, if you're an entrepreneur. I don't care who it is. If you are the leader, if you are the one that created the product, the service, or the program, and you say that I'm leading this, you must understand that you are there to serve your clients. You are there to serve your customers. They are not there to serve you. You are not a leader to get or to take. You are a leader to give. That's it. So when you start having that mentality, when you're going through something, you want to be able to, no matter what you're going through, to be able to give the best of yourself to your team, to your partner, to your partners, to your business, to your community, to your clients, to your customers. You want to have that servant mentality. Number 2, I want to talk about levels of leading through pain. There are levels of leading through pain. Level number 1 is, I call it step up. When sometimes you got to step up to the plate. Just because you went through a bad relationship doesn't mean that your business or your clients have to suffer along with you, or your team has to suffer along with you. Just because your day didn't go right or your morning commute was rough doesn't mean that you inflict punishment on your team, that you don't show up positive, that you don't show up clear-minded, that you don't show up with the right attitude, the right disposition to lead that team. You got to step up. We all have problems. We're always going to, just because the client said something that you didn't like doesn't mean that you're going to take it out on your team. Just because the customer said that they don't like your product, they want their money back, as an entrepreneur, doesn't mean that you take that out on the customer or you take that out on your team. You got to step up. Now there's a second level that I call step aside. Sometimes you're going through some stuff, just like I did. I was going through my mom. My mom was facing a dire situation. I had to step aside. Sometimes you got to step aside. Sometimes you got to take a sabbatical. You got to take some rest. You got to think things through, because you just don't feel like bringing it to the table. You just don't feel like bringing it to that live talk that you have to have with your team through Zoom or through WebEx. Sometimes you just don't feel it. Sometimes you're really going through something. I spoke to some people where their sibling has died, or they went through mental depression. Sometimes you just have to step aside as a leader, because the thing that you're facing is so overwhelming that it's best for you to step aside, collect yourself, and then come back stronger and courageous than ever. But first, let me warn you, before you step aside, you have to have a talk with your team. And I'll explain that in the next step. Now, part 3 of the levels is when you have to step down. There are some things in leadership, there are some hurts that you cannot walk through as a leader. And I think everyone here knows what I'm talking about. When as a leader, you do something that shows you to be untrustworthy to the organization, to the team, those are the things where those are the things that you need to really consider stepping down. When your integrity is being questioned and it's true, I'm not talking about just, fanatical criticism, but I'm talking about when your integrity is being questioned and it's true and you know it's true, you need to step down. You need to leave that alone. Because you have made yourself unfit at that time to lead. In order for you to lead, and knowing that you had some involvement with Mrs. Jones, your admin, nah, that's disrespecting your team. That's like slapping them in the face. There are some levels of leadership where you can't lead through. You got to step down. The 3 levels again: step up, step aside, step down. Now let's talk about step 3 in leadership. What I did, I had to talk to my team about what was going on in my life. I couldn't keep it a secret. Because let me tell you what happens when you keep it a secret. What happens is that people start making up stuff. You get the rumor mill start going. Because believe it or not, when you're not 100%, people can feel it. They know it. They understand it. You're thinking you're bringing it to the table. But people know you. They watch you. There's a certain vibe that you give off when you're in front of your team, even through this live. There's some lives that I do, and people are like, "Hey, man, you usually bring it, but what's going on?" They can feel it. They know you. They watch you. They're constantly watching you. So never try to keep it a secret. Never try to be so strong that you look weak, because they know. Instead of trying to be strong, be courageous and bring your vulnerability to your team, because you've created a culture that is supportive. You created a culture that has empathy. You created a culture with those values that everyone could partake in, being part of that team, being part of that community. Some of you thinking, well, just because I'm building a Facebook group, that doesn't mean anything. Those are just my customers, and I just have to treat them right. I just have to get the money and all this stuff. No. You are there to serve those people. Those are real life people. Those are real family members. Those are real wives. Those are real husbands. Those are real brothers. Those are real sisters. Those are real leaders in the community. Those are real people with real hearts that's beating, that has pain, and they're looking for you to lead them. I hope this is getting through to somebody that needs to hear this. Because I know when I heard it, it touched my heart because I wasn't always like this. I had to learn it. And I had to learn it the hard way. Because I was always the one that was like, man, I'm going to be strong. I'm going to be strong for my team. But I forgot about being courageous for my team. And the courage that your team, your family, your community is looking for, they're looking for you to be vulnerable. They're looking for you to be human. They don't want you to have all the answers. They don't want you to be invincible. They want you to be human. They want you to listen. The greatest thing that you can do for another human being is to listen, especially as a leader. You listen to your customers, what they want, their pain points. What are they saying? What's going on in their lives so you can meet their needs. You're not listening to make money. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with making money. I love making money myself, but that's not the main goal. My main goal is to serve my community, to serve my customers, to serve my clients. When I go to work, I go to serve my team. That's why I'm not always the one talking. If you were to walk into one of our business meetings, you would see me sitting in the back or sitting somewhere on the side, just taking notes. And one of my teammates doing all the talking. What am I doing? I'm listening. I'm searching for the problems. I'm searching for the challenges. So I can offer my team the resources that they need to meet those challenges and problems. That's what you're supposed to be doing. So you gotta build that. I can go and talk to my team about what I'm going through at home. And I don't have to worry about somebody judging me. I don't have to worry about somebody saying that I'm weak. You know why? Because when they were going through their problems, I listened. I had empathy. I was at the hospital when they were going through the operation. I bought the flowers. I was at the house when they were going through some problems with their teenage sons or daughters. I was on the phone with them when they were having challenges in with their relationships. I'm all in my team's business. I am. That's the kind of leader I am. I want to know, how can I serve you? That's every time I go to work is, how can I serve you? Every time I post something on IG or LinkedIn or whatever, that's what I'm thinking about. How can I serve? How can I serve someone today? How can I best serve someone today? I want to talk about the fourth step. If you're writing this down, step number 1 was look at fear in the face, straight in the face. Step number 2 was there are levels of leading through pain. Step up, step aside, step down. Step number 3 was you build a culture that supports everyone in that community, everyone in that team. Now, step number 4. You must understand that an organization It's not about systems and performance matrix and all these type of measurements. The vision statement, the mission statement. You must understand, and I want to be redundant about this, is that you're dealing with leaders. You're dealing with people. And I'm glad I said that word, leaders. Because if you're in an organization and you're not building leaders and you're trying to develop followers, you're doing it backwards. You're not serving them. You're doing what school did to us, turn us into followers. As a leader, it is your job to develop other leaders. Let me not go into that too much because that's going to take me into something else. But just remember, as a leader, it's your job to develop leaders, not followers. You want people to not miss you when you go on vacation. I know it just doesn't seem right? It seems like an oxymoron. You want people to miss you. You want people to know that feel that you're gone. No. As a leader, you want people to be okay and be like, we got this when you're gone. That's when you know that you're leading. If you're leading a family and everybody's always dependent on you, you're not doing your job to develop those family members as a leader. You don't want people to be dependent on you. You want to give them the strength and you want to keep walking. You don't want people dependent on you. If a leader wants someone to be dependent on him, that leader has some insecurities that they need to deal with. You always want to develop leaders. You always want people to grow up. Don't you see in nature? Your sons, your daughters, they grow up and they go have their own family. That's how nature got it. I mean, that's how we operate. You grow up and you leave. But when you was in the beginning, you had somebody leading you. Your mom or your dad or your grandma or your uncle or your grandpa. Whatever. You had a leader over you. But there was one day you had to get out of the nest and fly on your own. Always build that type of culture. I went off on a tangent there because I thought that was important. That's not on the script. That's a bonus. But I do want you to understand that there's a lot of pain in leadership. Your teammates are hurting because they're human beings and you hurt. You must understand that you are human too. And they are human. And we all hurt. We all go through things. And you gotta separate that the person from what they're going through. If so-and-so was a rock star and all of a sudden things change, you don't start blaming so-and-so for being lazy and all this stuff. You find out what's going on in so-and-so's life so you can help. And as you build that culture, as you build that example, when it's your time to feel the pain, your team will be there to help. Number 5. We're going to continue with the facing it. I want to go back to that facing that problem. How do you stand up? How do you go ahead and face it? How do you acknowledge it and face the situation, to face the problem when you don't feel like it? Sometimes you wake up, you want to stay in bed. You know, sometimes we all think that a leader has this miraculous thing about them, or they're less than human, that, you know, they can just, you know, You see them every day. They're cheerful all the time, and we think nothing is going wrong in their lives. That is so far from the truth. Sometimes the world is just collapsing around us as leaders, but we still hold a great disposition because we understand that we've built a supportive team around us, and we can talk about it. And when you talk about things to people, you don't tell them everything. You tell them just enough to inspire, to encourage them. And you let them know that you have a support system that understands all of the details, and you're working with a support system that's going to help you get through this. And you know that they will also help you being your team because you've built that culture, you built that community, you built a community of support. And people while they're watching you go through your stuff and how you handle it, they are encouraged because they're always going through something too, because you just don't know what they're going through. They're going through it too. So as you're getting support from them, they're being inspired, they're being encouraged by you, because you're being courageous and letting them know that, hey, you know what? My wife and I are no longer together. They don't have to know the details. This is what you're feeling. If you've been feeling that something has been going on in my life, this is what you've been feeling. You know, my mom is in the hospital, and I'm afraid. I'm afraid that something might happen. People get inspired when you talk like that. When you're a human being, they know you have a beating heart. They know they can empathize with you. They know you give your team an opportunity to support you because you've been doing all this support. People love to have the opportunity to give it back to you. And one of the last things that I want to talk about is every hardship, no matter what that hardship is, no matter if it's a health issue, no matter if it's a financial issue, relationship issue, mental health issue, whatever it is, if you go through it, there is something good on the other side. And you, as a leader, you must think like that. That there's something good on the other side of this. No matter how dark that thing that you're going through, and I don't know what you're going through, but no matter how dark it seems, just tell yourself that there's something good on the other side of this. I am going to be better on the other side of this. This has come for me, to help me. It has not come to hurt me. What the man said, you did it because of evil, but God meant it for me for good. Everything in your life should be focused on that. That no matter how dark it is, you go through that valley of that shadow, you go through it, knowing that on the other side, that's your victory. That's your breakthrough. That you will be better. Your team will be better. Your organization will be better. Your company, your product, your service, your clients, everyone will become better, because when a leader gets better, everyone is served. Have that mindset. Keep that mindset. And I just want to encourage you guys to keep persevering in this time when everything seems to be going wrong. That we don't, in this time of uncertainty where we don't know whether we're going to another lockdown, we don't know who's going to be the next victim, we don't know. But I want you to tell yourself that on the other side of this, I'm going to win. I'm going to win. I'm going to win. I just need to get to the other side of it. Hey, I know that was kind of heavy, but if you want to see more leadership tips like this that could take your leadership to the next level, click on this video right here, right next to me. I think you'll enjoy it, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.